He left the house like any other night. Said he was coming back, but he never did. Hours later, they found his car. Engine still warm. Keys in the seat. Driver's door wide open. But no Christian. You're watching an unbelievable true story, where we only tell real stories. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. This happened in Alabama, 2017. Christian Boyle was just 18. Bright. Funny. Everybody knew him. He told his folks he'd be right back. Then gone. Like the night swallowed him whole. See, it don't take much. 1 second of trust. 1 step in the wrong direction. And it's over. Here's the truth. Every 40 seconds, a child goes missing in the U.S. Most of them don't get found right away. And worse, 80% of the time, it's someone they already know, not a stranger, somebody close. That's why I keep telling y'all, don't wait until it's too late. There's a course for men in the description and pin comment, built by real combat trainers. It shows you how to stop threats fast, how to hold your ground, how to fight with purpose. You don't need to be strong. You just need the will to survive. Now stay with me, because we're about to break down who did it, how they got away, and what one move changed everything. Let's get into the full story. His name was Christian Lee Boyle, born in 1999. He was only 18 in 2017 when this nightmare happened. Christian wasn't some street thug. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was a kid, a son, a brother, a friend. People called him sweet. He had a smile that could break tension in a room. And he was funny too, the kind of funny that made people feel safe, made people want to stick around him. Christian lived in Cullman, Alabama. That's not a big city like New York or Chicago. That's small town life. Church bells, Friday night, football, folks who wave when you pass them on the road. A town where nothing big ever happens until something like this rips the heart out of it. Now picture it. It's July 2017. Summer heat thick in the air. The kind of night where the air sticks to your skin. Christian leaves his house like he's done 100 times before. He tells his people, I'll be back. He doesn't pack a bag, doesn't grab a jacket. He's not planning to stay gone. He's planning to come home. But home never saw him again. See, that's what makes this story cut deep. Christian didn't vanish from some dark alley in a big city. He vanished from small-town Alabama, right from the middle of normal life. Now, what we know is this. Around 7 p.m., he got his car, a silver Honda Accord. That car was his pride. Shiny, clean. He kept it neat. It was freedom on wheels. The way every 18-year-old feels when they first get to drive. He drove off into the night. Maybe to see a friend. Maybe to clear his head. Nobody knows. That's the part that kills you, the not knowing. Hours later, his car was found. It was parked on the side of a back road. Engine still warm. Driver's side door cracked open. Keys just sitting there like he planned to hop back in. But Christian? Nowhere. You know what that feels like? Like somebody hit pause on a movie. But the main character never came back to finish the scene. Let me slow this down for you. Because when you hear a story like this, your mind jumps ahead. What happened? Who did it? What? But first, let's sit with Christian. Because he was real. He wasn't just a name in the news. Christian grew up in Alabama with his family. He wasn't perfect. None of us are. But he was loved. He worked part-time jobs. He cracked jokes that had people crying laughing. He was the kid who could argue with you, then hug you 5 minutes later. That's rare. That's real. People said Christian dreamed about bigger things. He wanted to leave the small-town cycle. Maybe head to college. Maybe start something of his own. But that night, in 2017, those dreams hit a wall. Now let's paint this picture. Cullman County, Alabama. Hot summer air. Dark two-lane roads with no streetlights. Woods pressing in from both sides. The kind of place where if your car broke down, you'd pray somebody friendly came along. Because out there, it's just you, the trees, and God. Christian's car ended up in a spot just like that. A lonely stretch. No cameras. No busy traffic. No witnesses. That's the kind of silence where bad things happen. So what could have gone down? Police came. Families searched. Friends posted online. Everybody asking the same question. Where's Christian? They checked his phone. Checked his last calls. Nothing clear. Just a regular night that ended in a hole you can't climb out of. And here's the thing. In the U.S., a child or teen goes missing every 40 seconds. That's from a National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, 2023. Think about that. By the time I finish this sentence, another family is looking for their kid. Another parent is screaming in their car, wondering if they'll ever see their baby again. That's the storm Christian's family was thrown into. A storm of waiting, of hoping, of checking every sound outside the window. And the worst part? No answers. Now, before I go deeper into the search, let me tell you this. I know stories like this make you feel helpless. Like if something happened to you, you wouldn't know what to do. That's why we added a real self-defense course for men in the description and pin comment. Built by real combat trainers. No fluff, just moves that can stop threats fast, protect your space, and keep you alive. 1 hour of training you could do at home. That's it. Because Christian's story is proof. Trouble don't wait. It don't knock on your door polite. It just shows up. And if you ain't ready, it can take everything. Back to Christian. When the cops saw his car, they knew right away. This wasn't some kid running away. No signs he packed. No signs of fight inside the car. It looked like he stepped out for a second. And then gone. Family begged for answers. They called his phone over and over. Straight to voicemail. They drove the roads. Knocked on doors. Prayed in their beds at night. But days turned into weeks. And weeks turned into silence. Now stay with me, because we're just getting started. Next, we're going to break down the search. Who last saw Christian? The theories that tore his family apart. And how a small Alabama town held its breath, waiting for a boy who never walked back home. The search for Christian Boyle started the same night his car was found. Because something about that scene, it screamed wrong. Cops don't like mysteries, but this one was thick. Car engine still warm. Door wide open. Keys inside. No Christian. It didn't look like a runaway. Didn't look like a joyride gone bad. It looked like somebody walked him off that road. His family wasted no time. They started calling everybody. Friends, neighbors, anybody who might have seen him. The whole town started buzzing. Small towns don't stay quiet when a boy goes missing. Whispers float in diners. People bring it up at church. Gossip turns into theories. And pretty soon, everybody got a version of what happened. Some said he was jumped. Others said he met the wrong crowd. And some folks whispered darker things, that maybe someone close to him knew more than they were saying. Police set up search teams. Dogs were brought in. They walked the roads, checked the woods, even dragged nearby creeks. But nothing. It was like the earth swallowed him. Let me tell you, the waiting is worse than the finding. Because when you find a body, you at least have an answer. When you find nothing, your mind turns against you. His mama would sit by the window every night, staring at the driveway, thinking maybe he'd walk back in. Maybe the car pulling up was him. But the driveway stayed empty, and the nights stayed long. Now, you need to understand the world Christian was living in. Coleman County ain't crime-free. It's small, but drugs had started creeping in. Pills, meth, bad people riding quiet roads. Some say Christian had friends who ran with rough crowds sometimes. But nothing made him a criminal. He was just young. And young people, they don't always see the danger standing in front of them. The last people to see Christian said he seemed normal. No stress, no fear, no sign he was planning something crazy. He wasn't carrying bags. He didn't have cash stashed. He was just living. And then, gone. Cops started pulling phone records. That's what they always do. They want the last text, the last call, the last ping off a tower. Christian's phone went dead not long after his car was found. No more texts. No more calls. Like a light switch flipped off. And that made the case harder. Because without a phone trail, you're chasing shadows. The town began to split. Some folks thought maybe Christian was taken by someone he knew. Others said it had to be strangers. But strangers don't usually stop in Coleman County. Not on a quiet back road at night. Strangers don't know where kids park their cars. Someone knew. That's what kept eating at people. It felt personal. Here's a raw truth. Most people who go missing don't get snatched by some random boogeyman in a van. They get pulled in by somebody they trust. A friend, a neighbor, even family. The National Crime Information Center says over 80% of missing teen cases involve someone the victim already knows. NCMEC, 2023. Think about that. 80%. That means the danger ain't always hiding in the shadows. Sometimes it's smiling right at you. So Christian's family started asking hard questions. Who was he with? What did they talk about? Who picked him up? Rumors circled like vultures. Some said he owed somebody money. Some said he was trying to help a friend who pulled him into trouble. Some said it was random, wrong place, wrong time. But the car, that damn car, it sat there like a question nobody could answer. Why would he leave it? Why would he walk away from the one way to get home? Unless somebody made him. Days passed, then weeks. Flyers went up. Photos of Christian's smiling face taped to gas station windows. His name shared on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere people could click share. His mama begged on the news. If anybody knows anything, please say something. Her voice cracked, her eyes swollen from crying. The kind of pain that makes your chest tight just listening. And still, silence. Now here's where things get even more twisted. Somebody started calling in fake tips, claiming they saw him here or there, claiming he was alive. People desperate for attention, or just cruel. That ain't just sick, that's evil. Because every time the phone rang, the family's hope went up. And every time it turned out false, that hope crashed even harder. You don't play with a family like that. Not when their boy is missing. The sheriff stood up in front of cameras. He said, "We're not giving up. We're following every lead." And you could tell he meant it. But his eyes said something else. They said we're lost too. Because without a witness, without a body, without even a fight scene, the case was like chasing smoke. And let me tell you something about small towns. When a kid goes missing, it don't just break one family. It breaks everybody. Mamas hold their sons tighter. Fathers double-check the locks at night. Teenagers start texting more, checking it more, because suddenly it's real. Suddenly, bad things ain't just on TV. They're right here. Christian's friends kept searching. Some drove the back roads for hours. Others checked abandoned houses, barns, places kids hang out. They didn't find him, but they wouldn't stop. Because when someone you love disappears, your brain don't shut off. You keep thinking, maybe he's here, maybe he's there, maybe if I just look one more time. It eats you alive. And through it all, that car sat like a tombstone, empty, waiting. A silver reminder that Christian was gone, and nobody knew why. When a young man vanishes, the cops don't just look at the woods. They look at the people around him. Because most times, the answer ain't in the trees. It's in somebody's mouth. So, who was Christian last with? That's the first question. And the answer got messy. Some friends said he was supposed to meet up with somebody that night. But nobody agreed on who. Names started floating. Kids he went to school with. Older guys who hung around the edges. People who didn't always mean well. But here's the problem. When a small town starts pointing fingers, everybody becomes a suspect. Some folks said Christian had been hanging out with people older than him. Guys with records. Guys into drugs. Not heavy gang life. This was Cullman, Alabama, but still bad enough. One rumor was that he owed someone money. Another rumor said he saw something he wasn't supposed to. And then there was the whisper that maybe it wasn't crime at all. Maybe it was personal. Because let's be real. When you're 18, drama follows you. Girlfriends, fights, jealousy, little sparks that can turn into wildfires. The cops interviewed his friends. Some clammed up, some talked too much. And the more they talked, the muddier the story got. One kid swore Christian left to me a girl. Another said he was heading to buy weed. Another said he was just going to get food. All different stories. And all of them left holes. That's when you know somebody's lying. Or everybody is. Now let me break this down. Small towns got layers. On the surface, everybody smiles. But underneath, secrets, affairs, old grudges, money owed. Everybody knows something about somebody. And sometimes that knowledge turns deadly. So Christian disappearing wasn't just a crime. It was a spotlight. And suddenly, people started acting nervous. One name that came up was a guy in his 20s. I won't say his full name here, but locals know it. He had a rep. Into trouble. Had been in fights before. Cops checked him. Questioned him. But without evidence, you can't pin a ghost. Another lead said Christian was seen at a gas station. Security cameras were pulled. They showed cars. Faces. But nothing that screamed, "This is it." Meanwhile, Christian's mama kept pushing. She was relentless. Calling the sheriff. Knocking on doors. Standing in parking lots, handing out flyers. Begging for answers. And you could see the pain eating her alive. because every day without him was another cut that didn't heal. Now let me tell you the truth. Disappearances leave scars that don't fade. Because when you don't know what happened, your brain writes its own endings. Was he scared? Was he hurt? Was he calling for help? You don't get peace. You get nightmares. The cops didn't give up, though. They ran searches again and again, brought in volunteers, checked barns, fields, and rivers. But nothing connected. It was like chasing a shadow that stayed one step ahead. And that's when the fear set in. Because if Christian could vanish, who's next? Parents started watching their kids tighter. Teenagers stopped cruising the back roads at night. Even grown men started locking doors earlier. That's the power of a mystery like this. It don't just take one boy. It takes a whole town's sense of safety. But the rumors kept running. Somebody said he was killed in a fight. Somebody else said he was taken out of state. One woman swore she saw him walking on the highway weeks later. Another said she heard he was buried in the woods. Every story pulled people in different directions. And with no body, no weapon, no confession, the case froze. Now let's talk suspects again. Because the thing that really makes your skin crawl is how many people seem possible. There was the friend with the temper, the older guy with a record, the stranger who nobody recognized at the gas station that night. Even whispers about family, not close family, but distant connections who might have had beef. But every time the cops leaned in on somebody, the trail went cold. No fingerprints, no blood, no proof. And proof is everything. Without it, all you got is talk. Christian's mama went public. She said, "Somebody out there knows. I know they do. Please come forward." Her voice cracked on the news, and you could feel it, the weight of carrying a son's face in your heart with no grave, no goodbye. Here's the wild thing. Cases like this, they don't stay still. Even years later, tips still trickle in. Some real, most fake. And every time, the family gets pulled back into the storm. It's like being stuck in quicksand. The more you struggle for answers, the deeper the silence pulls you down. Now let's step back. This isn't just Christian's story. This is America's story. Because the National Crime Information Center says over 600,000 people go missing every year in the U.S. NCIC 2021. Most come home, but tens of thousands don't. And when you look at those numbers, you realize Christian's face is one of many. But to his mama, his family, his friends, he's the only one that matters. And let me say this, not knowing hurts worse than death. Because when someone dies, you bury them. When someone disappears, you bury your own hope over and over again. After the first weeks passed, the silence around Christian Boyle grew heavy. At first, people thought the police would crack it quick. Maybe he'd show up at a friend's. Maybe he'd call, embarrassed with some wild story. But the days turned to weeks. Weeks into months. And no Christian. The town of Coleman, Alabama, started to feel different. You ever notice how a missing person changes a place? At first, folks rally. Posters go up. Search parties form. Everybody wants to help. But after time, that energy fades. People go back to their jobs. They stop driving the back roads, looking for clues. But the family? They never stop. Christian's mama kept his room just the way he left it. Bed made, clothes folded, shoes lined up near the closet. Like one day, he'd walk through the door, kick them off, and fall on the bed laughing. The sheriff's department said the case was open. But open don't mean active. Open means waiting. Open means if something new comes in, we'll look. Until then, it's just paper in a drawer. That's the cruelty of unsolved cases. They don't just disappear from the news. They disappear from the system too. But his mama refused to let him be forgotten. She made Facebook pages. She posted his picture over and over. She begged the community, "Don't let my boy fade away." Every birthday, every holiday, she wrote online like he could see it. Like maybe if he was alive somewhere, he'd read it and come home. And if he wasn't, at least the world would know she never gave up. Now here's what eats at me. How does an 18-year-old vanish without a trace? No body, no phone, no witness. That don't just happen. Somebody knows. Somebody saw. Somebody kept their mouth shut. And silence? That's the same as guilt. Theories started to rot the town from the inside. Some swore Christian had been killed that night, his body buried deep in the woods. Others said he'd been taken out of Alabama, maybe trafficked, maybe forced into a life he didn't choose. There was even a theory that he left by choice, started over somewhere new. But his family shut that one down quick. Christian would never leave us like that, his mama said, and you could see it in her eyes. She believed that with every fiber of her being. Years rolled by, but the pain didn't. Each anniversary of his disappearance was another cut, another reminder that time was moving on, but answers weren't. The church prayed. Friends shared his photo again. News outlets would run a short piece. Still missing. Still no answers. And then silence again. Now, let me give you a number. According to the FBI's National Crime Information Center, there were over 89,000 active missing person cases in the U.S. at the end of 2021, NCC 2021. That's 89,000 families stuck in the same hell. 90,000 empty chairs at dinner tables. And Christian's family was one of them. That's the reality. We don't live in a safe bubble. Bad things don't just happen in movies. They happen in Alabama. They happen anywhere. But through it all, Christian's story kept a grip on people. Because he was 18. Because he was loved. Because he could have been anybody's son, brother, or friend. Parents started telling their kids, "Text me when you get there. Don't leave your car running alone. Stay where there are people." Christian became a lesson, even though nobody wanted him to. And his mama? She turned her pain into fuel. She showed up at missing person vigils. She talked with other families who had lost kids. Because once you live through this kind of nightmare, you recognize the look in someone else's eyes. That broken, sleepless look. That constant question, what if? The hardest part was the empty space. No grave to visit. No answers to hold on to. Every sound at night made her wonder. Every phone call made her heart jump. Hope and grief living side by side, tearing her apart. Sometimes, late at night, she'd post, "I just want to know. If he's alive, bring him home. If he's gone, tell me where. Please." That plea, not even for justice, just for truth. Because truth, even ugly, is better than silence. And through it all, the suspects, the whispers, the rumors, they still lingered. But without proof, the cop's hands were tied. And without proof, the family stayed locked in limbo. Now, before I close this part, let me say something real. We live in a world where danger don't always come with warning signs. And that's why we added a free self-defense course for men in the description and pinned comment, made by combat trainers. It's simple, no nonsense, and it shows how to fight back, stay calm, and survive. Because the truth is, most people freeze when trouble comes. And freezing can cost you your life. Time don't heal all wounds. That's a lie people tell so they can sleep at night. Some wounds don't close. They just stay open, bleeding a little every day. That's what it's like for Christian Boyle's family. It's been years since that night in Cullman, Alabama. Years since he pulled out the driveway. Music probably playing, plans in his head. Years since his mama looked at his face in the kitchen and thought she'd see him again in the morning. Now, the kitchen is too quiet. The chair he sat in's still there, but he ain't coming back to sit in it. See, that's the cruelty of the unknown. If someone dies and you bury them, at least you know where they are. You can talk to the headstone. You can cry at the grave. But when they vanish, it's like your soul is trapped in limbo. Every day, you wake up with hope and heartbreak at the same time. Maybe today, the phone will ring. Maybe today, the sheriff will knock with answers. And then the sun goes down, and you're right back where you started. Christian's mama said it best once. People think time makes it easier. It don't. Time just makes it lonelier. That line stuck with me. Because ain't that the truth? Grief don't fade. It just changes shape. The town still whispers his name. Every now and then, you'll see a flyer in a gas station window. A Facebook post shared by someone who remembers. But mostly it's quiet now. And silence is the loudest sound you'll ever hear when someone you love is missing. Now, let's step back for a second. Because Christian's story ain't just about one boy in Alabama. It's about thousands of kids across the country. Did you know? According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, in 2023 alone, there were over 359,000 reports of missing children in the U.S. NCMEC 2023. That's almost the population of a whole city gone. Think about that. Every face a story. Every name a family screaming into the dark, hoping somebody listens. And Christian's mama, she still screams. Every post, every plea, every prayer, it's her way of fighting back against that silence. Because silence is the killer. Silence erases, and she refuses to let her boy be erased. People sometimes ask, do you think he's alive? And you can see the war in her eyes. Hope on one side, reality on the other. But she never says no. She always says, until someone proves different, I believe my baby's out there. That hope is the only thing keeping her standing. Now, I want you to picture this. It's late at night. You're driving down a dark Alabama back road. The trees hanging over, shadows crossing the pavement. You see a boy's face on a missing poster nailed to a pole. The wind flaps the paper, and for a second, you feel it. That chill, that truth, that this world is not safe. And you realize it could have been your kid, your brother, you. That's why I tell these stories. Not to scare you, but to wake you up. Because danger don't send an invitation. It just shows up, and you better be ready. That's why we share those free self-defense courses. Not as a gimmick, not as a sales pitch, but because too many people freeze when they need to fight. And sometimes, the only thing standing between you and a headline like Christian's is knowing what to do in that 1 second that counts. As for Christian, his name still hangs heavy in Coleman. His mama still posts. His case file still sits in a drawer at the sheriff's office. And his story still breaks hearts like it's brand new. He was 18. He was loved. He mattered. And that's what I want you to remember. Because when the world forgets, that's when the story really dies. And we can't let that happen. So tonight, when you lock your doors, when you tell your kids good night, when you check your phone one last time before bed, remember Christian Boyle. Remember his mama waiting by the window. Remember the hole in that family that never healed. And then ask yourself, how many other families are living that same nightmare right now? How many faces are still missing, still staring out from posters, still waiting for someone to care? This ain't the end, because Christian's case is still open. And as long as it's open, there's a chance. Maybe small, maybe slim, but a chance. And hope, no matter how fragile, is sometimes the only thing holding the world together. This was the story of Christian Boyle. Gone at 18, gone too soon, but never forgotten. Stay with me, because in the next story, we're diving into another case. One just as haunting, just as raw. And it'll make you look over your shoulder, double-check the locks, and hold your loved ones a little tighter. Because if there's one thing we've learned here, it's this. The unthinkable don't just happen out there. It happens right here, and it can happen to anyone.